Views, opinions, and content of this show are those of the host, guest, and callers. They do not necessarily reflect those of Local Matters Broadcasting, LLC, its owners, partners, affiliates, assigns, or heirs. Having said that, it's now time to say good morning, St. Johns County. Welcome to the weekly radio show of the St. Johns County Council on Aging, better known in our community as the COA. We are your local nonprofit agency who for the past 51 years has been leading and advocating for the dignity and independence of seniors and responding to their changing needs. I'm Brian Robinson, Program Director for COA, broadcasting to you live from the studio of WFOY 102.1 FM, your local radio station for news, sports, and talk. Before we get into the show, let me remind everyone, if you have a question, comment, or a suggestion for a radio show topic, or if you just want to compliment me on my taste in fashion, you can send your email to radio@coasjc.org. Again, that's radio@coasjc.org. And before we get into our show, I just want to say happy Juneteenth to those who are listening, our African-American friends throughout St. Johns County. And as we celebrate this day, it is a federal holiday, made a federal holiday back in 2021. And so Council on Aging is closed today. I think we're open for just some transportation to very serious medical appointments, such as dialysis. But other than that, all of our locations are closed today. And so we just want to give a happy Juneteenth out there to all of our African-American friends throughout St. Johns County, especially to those who come to are involved in Council on Aging and work for us and volunteer for us. And so we're hope that you have a wonderful day today. So joining me in the studio this morning is Becky Yanni, Executive Director of St. Johns County Council on Aging. Good morning, Becky.
Good morning, Brian.
All right.
Lovely shirt, by the way.
Oh, well, thank you.
Your fashion sense is just incredible.
I do appreciate that. And so I in my closet, and this is something that's, people probably don't even care to know, right? So, but I have my clothes assorted based on the compliments that I get from people.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So if I get something new and I come to work and I get lots of compliments from people, then it has a certain place in my closet that I choose one of those first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Unless I don't want compliments from people, then I wear something that I know never gets compliments.
I'm not surprised that you're that organized, Brian. I'm not. Working with you at Council on Aging and the work that you do as the program director, your organizational skills are par excellence.
Yes, it's a blessing and a curse sometimes. Sometimes I'm too organized, right? All right, so what I wanted to do is just in this first segment for our show this morning is, if you would, just maybe there's somebody tuning in that absolutely knows nothing about you. So if you would take some time, tell our listeners about yourself and then your volunteer and work history with Council on Aging.
Sure. Well, I have been here in St. Augustine since 1977. So I've lived here a good long while. I've raised my family here. I have 2 boys, and now I'm fortunate enough to say I have 4 grandchildren. They're small. They're all under the age of 7. So that is a blessing. And I've always, of course, enjoyed living in St. Augustine with all the beautiful nature that we have here, and I'm a person who enjoys being outdoors, so I like running and biking and kayaking and camping, and this is the place to be for all that. And I came to work at Council on Aging as a volunteer in 2006, and I volunteered for a couple of years, and then I was asked to join staff by the development manager, and I came to work to help raise funds for River House. River House had their grand opening in 2010. And the development manager, when she retired, I was asked to move into that position as the manager there. And then in 2013, Kathy Brown, who had been the executive director for many years and is well-known locally, a legend locally, Kathy Brown retired, and I was asked to move into that position. So I have been the executive director now for going on 13 years myself.
Mm-hmm. And so looking back with, you mentioned River House, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so,
right.
So that location, at one point, there was nothing there, correct?
Well, it was, when I came to work with Council on Aging, there was, the Sunshine Center was on that piece of property. And there was some administrative buildings over there, the home health care agency and some offices. There were actually like trailers, sort of like a portable roll-off trailer. And Kathy Brown, the board at the time, they did not believe that that was the highest and best use for that piece of riverfront property. The vision came to grow that we could build the most beautiful senior center in Florida. I believe we achieved that. And then nights and weekends, it could be rented out for events and weddings, and that money would go back in to support the senior services for Council on Aging. And that vision worked out beautifully, and we have been booked for weddings, most weekends, weddings and charity events and family reunions and corporate events and so forth, but largely weddings ever since. So it was a great vision, and we had a group of board of directors, the executive director, staff, and volunteers who made it happen. And the builder, by the way, was A.D. Davis, and they built River House, and it still looks beautiful to this day. I can't believe that it's 15 years.
Yeah, it really does. I was giving somebody a tour recently, and part of the tour is going over to River House. And when I told him it was around 2010 that it was built, he was actually astonished, because it still looks so good, even 15 years later, right?
Years, right.
It has not had a lot of wear and tear to it, and of course we've had to do the upkeep and so forth, but
right.
Just very fortunate to have such a beautiful location. And then Monday through Thursday, it's used as a senior center, and
right.
so we, in the winter months, we usually have well over 400, 500 people to come through and attend the different classes that we have. And then, of course, summertime, some of those snowbirds head back north, and attendance is a little bit lower. But it's just fun to see to see all the different offerings that we provide throughout the week, and then to see it be used for a beautiful venue for weddings on the weekends.
Well, that's exactly right. And over the past 3 years, I guess it's been about the past 3 years, the attendance and the class offerings have really escalated, and it's such a popular venue. I was there for our art festival this spring, and to go in and see all the folks who were performing dances, performing in a musical group. We had acrylic artwork, watercolor artwork, pen and ink, and to see all these folks have the opportunity to engage in learning and creativity and just express themselves. It's really very uplifting to see that opportunity for these folks.
It really is, and then we keep the cost of it relatively low so that our seniors, it's not costing them a lot to do it.
Right.
And it's just great to see. And one of the things that I love is, I mentioned that we have a lot of snowbirds, and we have some volunteers who are snowbirds, right? And so they're from different parts of the country, up north and so forth, and they've told me, I've had several of them tell me, we have nothing like this back home. And so that's really great to hear that St. Johns County has such a robust offering for our seniors.
Well, that's true. When I first came to work at Council on Aging, I was not familiar with the industry at all. I had done some work with the volunteer manager in real estate, and that's how I came to learn about COA and came to work for COA. But as I have learned and grown with the agency, we are unique in our county and fortunate in our county to have the kind of offerings that we have and to have sort of everything under one umbrella. In many areas, you don't get that consistency. Some services are offered by one entity and other services offered by another. So it's very unique and fortunate in our county that we have the ability to do that.
Yeah, it really is. All right, well, we're going to go ahead. We're going to take our first break at this time. I got lots of other questions for you throughout the show, but you are listening to the weekly radio show, the St. Johns County Council on Aging, and we will be right back after these messages. And welcome back to the weekly radio show of the St. Johns County Council on Aging here on WFOY 102.1 FM, your local radio station for news, sports, and talk. I'm Brian Robinson, Program Director for COA. Joined in the studio this morning by Becky Yanni, who is the Executive Director of COA. And so prior to the commercial break, we were talking about how you got involved with Council on Aging, first as a volunteer, and then you came on staff, and then you've been the executive director since 2013. We were talking a little bit about River House and that beautiful location. But looking back on your time at COA, what experiences have brought you the most joy over the years?
The most joy over the years, well, I want to say, and I alluded to this a little bit when we were talking about River House, seeing folks have the opportunity to engage, opportunities for friendships and for learning and creativity, and just opportunities to continue to engage in all the things that really make life worth living. You know, we talk a lot about longevity, but we wanted to talk too about quality of life. And so seeing the seniors at the art festival, and then walking across the street and seeing at Coastal Community Center the birthday party with the fabulous DJ that we have, who often sings as well. He's really good. And people are dancing, and then you see folks playing cards, and then the very next day we had the centenarian luncheon, where we honor folks who are 95 and above and hear a little bit about their stories. All those things are just so uplifting. You know, it's really joyful to be part of an organization that can provide that kind of thing to the community. So I think that's the number one thing, is that. And then also, it's a joy to be part of a staff. We have terrific people who work for Council on Aging. It is an entirely different ball game when you have people that are mission driven, and that inherently brings folks who have compassion, have patience, have some level of a lot of the staff could maybe make more money someplace else. They choose to do this work because they are committed to the mission, and that just it brings a different atmosphere to Council on Aging, and that's just wonderful to work with. So I've been really, really honored to have that, and those things bring me joy. And I would also say the opportunity to hire and work with some younger people that are just coming into public service. That, I don't want to use the word mentoring because it's really a two-way street. I learn a lot from the younger people on our staff, but I also feel that I can model for them, the rewards of working in a public service agency like Council on Aging. So that's always a lot of fun. That brings me a lot of joy as well.
And we need to have the younger people on staff so they can help us with technology that is always changing.
That's exactly. That's
right.
That's right. That's right. That's one of the things we learn. But you also get that fresh perspective of the next generation, of how they see the world and how they view these relationships with older folks, and you have the opportunity to model to them that older people are still unique individuals, that they have been their whole life. They're just aging bodies, that it's not like a monolith of, those old people, and that's a kind of perception that we're always trying to bring to the community, is more respect and dignity for our older residents.
Yeah, and you mentioned the mission of the organization, right? And I think it's important for folks to be reminded, and I try to do this often, is that we are a 501c3.
Right.
And with that, as a nonprofit, just like every other nonprofit that's out there, you have a mission statement, right? You have a goal. And ours, is, of course, is to serve the seniors of St. Johns County and to do our best to help them age well and have a vibrant life at this stage in their life. And the employees need to be mission-minded, just like you said. And, and I think that brings a whole different type of culture to your work environment when folks are embracing that mission, which we see our folks do that day in and day out. Because as you mentioned, folks could go somewhere else and probably make more money, right? But the people that are at COA are there because they really believe in the mission of what we're doing.
Well, they do. And you're right. It brings a whole different atmosphere. And yeah, we really want to help older residents enjoy the best possible lives for whatever stage that they are in. And so we have our senior centers where folks can gather and eat together and learn. And then we have our adult day services. And those are for the folks who are suffering with some kind of cognitive issues, dementia, or Parkinson's, or some kind of issue like that need a little bit more hands-on care. But again, it's a joyful place. It has an agenda every day. We have different activities. We have very caring people in there leading arts and crafts and music and art. And then we get support from a lot of organizations in the community. And one of those is the University of St. Augustine. And the occupational therapists will come in and help us bring new, fresh, different ideas of activities for folks that keep them engaged and active and light up their brain. And plus, we just love seeing the younger folks in the building, you know. So
one day I walked through and they were playing like a human version of Hungry Hungry Hippo. You remember that? You remember that game?
Yes, I do.
So,
I do.
They had like laundry baskets and they had these balls that they were trying to reach out and grab, and that's fun. They bring a lot of different things to the center, a lot of different fun things.
That's right. They're learning a lot, and they're bringing that innovation into the center. And so it works for them. It helps them with their hours that they need for their graduation. And, of course, it's of great benefit to the participants. So that's always fun. We have a great many wonderful community partners that help us carry out our mission. As you stated, we're a nonprofit, and so we're always looking for donors to help us expand beyond what a government, our government subsidies will allow us to do. So in order to do all the things that we really need to do to support the older residents, we have to look beyond just that government funding, and hence River House and the events revenue there. We have Coastal Transportation, which is a charter bus service, can take people to the airport, or does some shuttle service for the amphitheater. Those kinds of things really help us support the mission. And then we have sponsors and fundraisers as well.
Yeah, and along those lines, we just did a Bridge the Gap campaign where we were trying to raise $25,000 to help us bridge the gap because of a funding shortage between last year and this year. And our donors came through.
Absolutely, they did. I mean, it's just, that's another thing that really brings you joy, is to see how the community responds when we tell them that we don't want to cut services to seniors and cut meals to seniors. They respond, and they don't want that either. So the community really stepped up and did that in a pretty short period of time. And so, just shout out to all the folks who really stepped up and helped us bridge the gap for those seniors, so they can continue to get those home delivered meals that are just so important.
Yeah, very much so. And I've said this many times on the show. We could not do what we do without the donors and the amazing volunteers that we have. I mean, we have well over 500 volunteers that help out in all of the different areas of COA, and we would not be able to do what we do without them.
Oh, no, absolutely not. Meals on Wheels, for example, if we had to buy the vehicles and staff, delivering the meals, we would not be able to deliver 200 meals a day. We wouldn't have the capacity for that. So, yes, it's very much expanded due to our volunteers and the donors who step up.
Yeah, and then I just want to mention that you can donate year-round. We're always accepting donations. So, yes, we just finished this Bridge the Gap campaign, but as I've mentioned many times before, we are a 501c3, so we always appreciate if you support us through your donation. Or if you're out there listening and you're looking for something to do and you want to volunteer, come check us out. All right, I got more questions for Executive Director Becky Yanni when we come back from commercial. You're listening to the Weekly Radio, St. Johns County Council on Aging. And welcome back to the Weekly Radio Show, the St. Johns County Council on Aging, here on WFOY 102.1 FM. Your local radio station for news, sports, and talk. Next week in the studio, I will have with me COA's Development Manager, Amy Robinson, talking about volunteer opportunities, fundraising opportunities, all those different things that she does in the development department. So tune in next week, same time, same place, here on 102.1 FM. I'm Brian Robinson, Program Director for COA, joined this morning by Becky Yanni, Executive Director of COA, and we've been just talking about how you got involved with COA and your work history and what has brought you the most joy over the years. And one of the things I wanted to do today is just kind of highlight what we were able to accomplish in 2024. And so originally I had you scheduled for the first radio show of this year, which would have been back in January, and there was a glitch in the computer programming, so we weren't able to have you, so I had to reschedule you for today. So let me just kind of highlight some of the things that we saw happen last year. First of all, we celebrated our 50th anniversary.
That's right. That was fantastic.
So that was neat to see the history of it, and I know there's like a lot of different newspaper clippings available to look at and pictures and so forth.
50 years and going from serving like 6 Meals on Wheels delivery and lunch in the dining room of the old Flagler Hospital, and a couple of medical transportation routes with one bus, to where we are now with 6 senior centers, memory care center, adult daycare, public transportation, as well as the medical transportation. Yeah, it's been steady, incremental growth, and as the county has grown, to serve the county. So yeah, that was very cool to celebrate that and to bring back some of those articles of all the leaders really who made that happen throughout the years.
Yeah, and I believe somebody who was the spouse of somebody that was one of the original founders was able to make it to that. And I can't remember what her name was, but she was able to be there and celebrate that occasion with us. And so that was fun, just to have
that continuity.
Somebody from the past, right?
Yes,
to
exactly.
be there. And I know former employees were there as well to celebrate it. So just a fun occasion to be able to celebrate that.
That's right.
All right. And also last year, attendance in our adult daycare, our senior centers increased. Our integrative memory enhancement program had 150 participants in 2024. Our curriculum is now being used in 5 other organizations. So we have 3 in Florida, 1 in Wisconsin, and 1 in Tennessee. So that's been fun to see that grow.
That's right. That's been growing since around 2010, but the majority of the growth has been here in the past 5 years.
Yeah, it's been fun to see that grow and to see the impact that has on the lives of folks that are in those early stages of dementia. That's what IMEP is designed for. But to know that it's being used elsewhere throughout the country is...
It's wonderful.
It's an honor.
It is wonderful. It's great that the folks in those facilities don't have to reinvent the wheel, because, we have developed this program that's very effective and helpful to people. And then, of course, their support helps us keep the program going.
Exactly. Our community caregiving program continued to assist many caregivers last year. Independent Living Services Department, they helped keep over 240 seniors in their homes. And so that's kind of a department that, we don't really see the impact of it, right? Because it's serving people in their homes. Like, we get to see the impact of people coming to the senior centers or the adult daycare center or our IMEP program. But the Independent Living Services Department is helping people stay in their homes, so they're coordinating with home health agencies to come into their home and do services for them so that they're able to stay at home, so that they're not forced into a situation where they have to go to assisted living or a nursing home. And so it's great to see that 240 seniors were served through that department.
That's exactly right, and that's that's core to our mission, is allowing people to age in place in the place that they call home with independence and dignity.
Yeah, and I've loved that we do that, because when you think of your home, especially one, you've worked all those years to pay the mortgage off, right? But then also you raised your family there, so you have all those memories. And I think of my mom when we finally got to a point where we had to sell her home. I mean, that house my dad built.
Oh my gosh,
in
yes.
1965, somewhere around that time frame. And so then they've raised their family there. And so, she had like over, close to 60 years of memories that were there. And so it took a while to talk her into selling it, but that was the best thing for her, because it was too big of a house for her in her condition. She had fallen and broken her hip, and just never really fully recovered from that. So it was too difficult for her to stay there.
Yeah.
And but our goal was to help people stay in their homes. Care Connection served over 550 seniors. And then our Care Connection volunteers last year built 9 wheelchair ramps, mowed 453 lawns, distributed 291 assistive devices, assisted 78 seniors with SNAP and Medicaid applications, installed 86 sets of grab bars. And so that's also another department that it's just has my heart, right? Because it's completely donor funded, it's completely volunteer led, and it's just great to see all those things that we're doing to, again, help seniors stay in the home.
Well, this is true about Care Connection. It's donor funded, it's volunteer led, and those are a lot of numbers. But I will tell you, all of those individuals have had their lives improved, or in some cases really changed by the work of these volunteers and donors. And for example, the wheelchair ramp build, one of the wheelchair ramp builds, and I accompanied the crew. The woman we were building the ramp for wasn't able to get out of her house because she didn't have a wheelchair ramp. And so for the past 2 years, the only time she went anywhere was if her grandson could come over and physically carry her out to the car. So as a result, she only really went to her doctor's appointments. So in one day, and with $1,500 worth of donations, and one day with the crew, they built the wheelchair ramp, and now she had her independence back, and she had her life back. So it's important to remember that when we're talking 9 wheelchair ramps and 100 assistive devices and so forth, that every one of those numbers is really impacting someone tremendously. And that's all volunteers and all support of the community.
Yeah. Last year, we also served thousands of meals at our congregate meal sites and delivered to our Meals on Wheels recipients. And I just want to give a shout out to our kitchen, because it is not a big staff that does these meals.
It's not a big staff. We basically have 5 people working on the meals. And last year, it was about 80,000 meals throughout the year. Of course, again, we're assisted by our volunteers. But yeah, we have a great crew of dedicated folks. And in my mind, they cook these meals every day. Okay, it's not frozen drop ship meals. It's cooked every day, and they're cooking like they were cooking for their own mother or grandmother. They really put their heart into it, and it's marvelous.
Yeah. All right, that music means it's time for our next commercial break. We'll continue our conversation right after these messages. And welcome back to the final segment of the weekly radio show, the St. Johns County Council on Aging, here on WFOY 102.1 FM, your local radio station for news, sports, and talk. I'm Brian Robinson, Program Director for COA, joined this morning in the studio by Becky, Yanni, Executive Director of COA. And prior to the commercial, I was talking about highlighting some of the different things from last year. But when we went to commercial, you mentioned that you wanted to take a moment and give a shout out to the board.
It's, a lot of times we talk about our volunteers and how much they help us, and we don't mention the fact that our board of directors is all volunteers. The board of directors is the skeleton, the framework of the agency, and they help us develop our strategic plan. They help to guide me and my decisions as I execute there at the agency, and they give of their time, they give of their talents. They help us in so many ways, and we really would not be able to work the way that we work without the board of directors. So I would really love to give a shout out to all of our board of directors, and we're very grateful.
And recently we applied for a grant with the United Way. It's one that comes up every 2 years,
right.
And they send a group of the United Way to us to kind of see us and meet us and see what we're doing and so forth. Reference to what we applied for the grant for. And they were impressed that we had a couple board members that came and were there. And so It is nice to see that involvement.
We have a very involved board, and that's a really good thing for our agency. And we just appreciate it so much.
Yeah. All right. So, again, reflecting on last year's accomplishments, one of the other things that we were able to do is secure the rest of the funding needed to begin Phase 1 of the Shelter and Shade project, which is currently under construction. So I was wondering if you would talk a little bit about that.
It is under construction. It's right outside my office window. And so what we're doing is there's a bus pull through at the front of the building at Coastal Community Center that brings the seniors, both for all our participants in the senior center, which is now sometimes up to 80 people a day, and then also the folks to the Sunshine Center, the adult daycare. And when we moved into that building, which is the old health department building, they paved a little roundabout for the buses, but it wasn't covered. And so the seniors get off the bus, and many of them use a lift because they're either on a walker or a wheelchair, and then they have to go up a ramp into the building, and that's often done in inclement weather, it's raining or whatever, and it's, it can take a full minute to get off the bus on the wheelchair lift. So the genesis of the project was to cover that and to elevate the ground so that the buses will pull through undercover, and then the seniors will be able to get off and walk directly into the building. And it's for safety, it's for accessibility. It will allow people that otherwise would not have been able to navigate that to join the fun at Council on Aging. So we're just delighted that the community stepped up again and donated the funds that were needed, and we went over the top with that with a matching grant from the Dolores Barr Weaver Legacy Grants, and they helped us reach our goal to do phase 1, which is the bus pull through and everything on the front of the building. So we have been there this past month. We've been sitting there looking out the window at bulldozers, scraping the ground away and pulling up the old ramp and taking off the false mansard roof, and in preparation for building the canopy and doing all that. And also we're going to be able to have sidewalks from Hendrick Street at one end, right where they end, currently on Marine Street. So we'll have the sidewalks continue from Hendrick Street up in front of the building and all the way to the other roundabout, which is the end of the outlet there on Marine Street. So that's going to allow the local neighborhood to be able to safely access and walk up as pedestrians as well. We'll also have a bike rack in front of the building, so you can bike up, you can walk up, and you can take the bus, and of course there's plenty of parking. So it's really going to improve accessibility. It's just a great project, and I'm just happy that we were able to get there.
And it's fun to see it coming in, going up, because we have the drawings, right, of what it's supposed to look like.
Right.
But then when you see it actually taking place, and you see the beams that are going up, that's going to, and it's really amazing. And
it is.
And they're working quickly. They're making a lot of progress.
It's impressive work. The workers are working really hard in these temperatures, and they're getting it up and getting it done quickly, and hats off to them as well. There's none of those situations where you see 3 guys standing around with 1 guy and a shovel. You don't see that on this project. I mean, they're really working, they're really getting it done, and it's great.
And I just want to give a shout out to our amazing bus drivers who bring the seniors to the senior center and the adult daycare center. Because as you mentioned, the whole point of this project is so that the seniors aren't going to have to be in the rain as they're coming off of the bus. But I have seen the bus drivers out there standing out there with an umbrella over the senior.
Exactly.
While they're getting wet.
Exactly.
So a big shout out to all of our bus drivers. We're so thankful for them. And all of them really care about the seniors. They're not just dropping them off.
Oh, you can tell.
They build a relationship with them, and they have a lot of fun with them.
You can absolutely tell. And now, by the way, so the programming is not interrupted. We have a ramp at the back door. So, temporarily the buses are pulling to the back door, and there's a ramp there. But the drivers will come in at the end of the day and come all the way into the senior center to let them know that they're there, and they help them and assist them get back on the bus and depart in the afternoon. And you can absolutely tell, you can see the interaction. They know everybody's name. They know their different needs. They know where they're taking them. And it's just again, the staff being mission oriented just makes all the difference in the world. Yeah.
And so, think about all these different accomplishments, and my next question was to whom or to what do you attribute COA's continued success in serving the seniors of St. Johns County?
Oh, well, it's absolutely a group effort. It's the staff that I've been talking about. It is all those volunteers that we've been saying, we couldn't do without. And it's the community that steps up. It's our supporters, our donors. We work in cooperation with St. Johns County government. They support us with local match, with facilities help. We work with local law enforcement. We work with the local medical community. There, we really have developed and work well with a lot of different organizations to help us keep this going. It's not something that just the Council on Aging by itself could do. It's not something that that we should do. I mean, it is a community effort, and it is a joy for us to do it, but it's also a responsibility. It's a responsibility for the community to take care of its older residents. And in this community, we do that through the Council on Aging.
Mm-hmm. All right, we got just about a minute or two left. So we've reached the halfway mark of 2025. We're on track to serve as many and possibly more seniors this year. As you look towards the future, what are you hoping COA can accomplish in the next 5 years?
In the next 5 years, well, I hope that COA will be able to meet the needs of this growing county. And we have in the past, as we talked about the 50-year anniversary, we've grown and grown and grown as the county has grown, but the county continues to just explode. And we need to meet the needs of the population where they are. And there are different needs in different geographic areas. As we found when we opened a center in Nocatee, the needs for the older population there are different than, say, the needs here in downtown St. Augustine or out in Hastings. In different areas, people have different needs that we can help them to meet. So we want to be able to continue that. So there will be growth. There will be more senior centers. There will be more growth in our memory enhancement products. There will be more growth in caregiving support, because no matter what part of the county you're in, caregiving is part of the equation in the older population. And the caregivers, most caregivers in this country are unpaid family members. And those caregivers need and deserve our support because they're taking care of our vulnerable people. So we will be expanding caregiving support. And you yourself are helping with the Dementia Care and Cure Initiative Task Force, which is convening members of the community from healthcare and from law enforcement and from government to meet those needs of the caregivers. So I see tremendous growth, and I'm pleased to be part of this agency.
Yeah, it's very exciting to see where we have come in 50 years and where we're hoping to go in the future. So very good. All right, well, that music means it's time for our show to end. Becky, thank you so much for being on the show, and thank you for all that you do for COA.
Well, I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to be at COA.
All right, everybody, have a great rest of your week. We'll see you here next Thursday.